Hello and welcome to How the Fuck Are We Halfway Through 2023? So, let's talk about the books that I have read, enjoyed, hated. I actually don't think there is a question about the enjoyed the least, which is odd. But don't you worry, there is a vlog upcoming where I have undoubtedly read, well, not undoubtedly, I mean, it could just go downhill from here, but it would be very, very hard to go below that bar for me personally. I've read a book that I think will be the worst of 2023 for me. And I get a bit ranty, so if you're into that, it's coming. So, in the year 2023 so far, I have read a total of 34 books, I want to say. Let's get through a few statistics, just because we like that. I'm gonna do a solid to editing G because I'm just getting back in it and I really don't wanna do it too much of it. That manga video really took it out on me with all of the editing. Was it worth it? Probably not, but I hope you enjoyed the little moving slides. It was satisfactory. But this is how we're looking for this year so far. So June is actually the month I've read the most, but not page-wise. Page-wise, somehow it was January. January so far has been the strongest month the whole year, which is surprising seeing that we also had April, which was also in the running. I read more things in April, but I read better things in January. I feel like I've started the year so strong. I had a couple of 5 stars and then continued to not get any. Until now, I think well, not even now. Oh no, I lie. There were a couple of 5 stars in the manga experiment. However, all of my 5-star reads this year of full novels were in January. So going well. Very, very good, happy times. The reading method table has been looking very unusual for my habits, I'd say. I've read more physically than I have in years, and I think it's a combination of doing that manga experiment, because obviously I've read those physically, and then a couple of audiobooks I've just really not vibed with the narrator, and I have swapped to physical, so I don't know, 2023, the return of the physical reading for G. It's a very even split between series and standalones. I have read 52% series, 47% standalones, which is actually quite surprising. Again, considering the experiment skewing all my data. I expect it to be higher in series, so I must have done a lot of like just novels in standalones. Genre-wise, we have this. Still in the lead with fantasy, 36%, and then followed by romance. What? Yeah, I read Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. Seaside Strangers I've classed as romance. I really wasn't sure how to class that at all. We Start After Coming Back Home also classed it romance. So I think it's just skewing because I was just like, I'm not sure what to class these. Okay, I understand why now. I've classed a lot of like the cozy manga that the only plot they do have is a romance plot, so I understand now. We're gonna semi-count that. And then the next one is sci-fi, which is 14%. Quite okay with that. I had 5 5-star reads, 14 which were 4, 11 for 3 stars, 4 for 2 stars, and 1 actually managed to get a singular star. Again, tune in to the next vlog for that treat. I'm going 55% adult, which is actually, I think, lower than my previous years so far. No, sorry, 27% young adult. It's because there's like 14% new adult, which I've classed some books that I thought were really in between in a singular middle grade. Average rating is 3.5 so far. 58% for me are new authors, and 41% is from read before authors, which I think is fairly high, like compared to my previous stats, I want to say, but I'm not 100% sure. So anyway, this is a tag, and you are probably very familiar with the tag, but if not, I will leave the questions down below for you to participate if you so wish to. It's a nice little structured video then for me to just fill it in and release to you. So let's get to it. The best book of the year so far, which again was one of the first books that I read in 2023, which is sad. I need like a booster in between. It's How High We Go in the Dark. I still very much recommend this book, but it's not for everyone. I will say that is a lot about a pandemic type of situation, a viral infection. I think it was viral. It's filled with short stories that somewhat connect, but not necessarily, and it's about humans and their faults and their hopes and their dreams and their pain, and a talking pig in some cases. And there were some stories that definitely really touched me, and then there's some stories that were admittedly weaker. I do think that the first half of this book is just like the most 5 stars that ever 5-star to me, and then some of them are just like, oh, that one was okay, like 3 stars. Still managed to pull through the 5 stars. I wasn't the biggest fan of the very end plot twist. Obviously can't say what it is because it's a surprise, I guess. It's a plot twist. But if you know me, you'd be surprised that I didn't like it. But I just think that it was an unnecessary angle to add, and I think it was more meaningful without it. Still, it managed to get 5 stars, and I do think this is a book that I will think on sometimes from time to time, which is a lot considering that half of the books that I read, maybe more, just go in and out. And that's it. And it's fine. That's fine. That's not a bad thing. That's just a thing that happens. And not all books are supposed to be there for a long time. I'm just saying that I think if you compare memories in general, I would not be on like a very impressive side of the graph. My memory is not the best. So if something leaves a mark, I like that. Best sequel that I've read, I've actually not read a substantial amount of sequels at all. I read a couple and I finished a couple of series, but I think the best one so far is Words of Radiance, which is the second one. This is part 2. It's like a big tome thing. You know. I don't know why I'm like, you know. It's an epic fantasy about, multiple perspectives of a world that is a little bit in chaos, and there's these massive storms that bring out power, but also fear and chaos again. Have I mentioned chaos? There's a lot of chaos. And we follow a man who has been sold as a slave and is trying to retrieve his own will to live, as well as suddenly being responsible for a whole crew of people. But that's how we kind of start off. It's hard to explain, I feel like. This one's always like, I'll let you know when I finish the series. Maybe there's gonna be a better image for me to just like pitch it as. This was the second book. I am mainly excited for the third one because I think a lot of people say that that is their favorite, or when things really get to you. But from the ones that I read, I would still say this probably was the most bestest sequel that I read. The new release that is out but I've not yet gotten to and I'm the most excited for, I think, is The Shadow Cabinet. I thoroughly enjoyed HMRC and actually mention it later in the video, so I'm not gonna linger on this, but it is now out. I'm just waiting for my Fairylit edition to arrive, which, you know what? Okay, no, that was not it. I just got a parcel. I was like, maybe that's it, but no. Which shouldn't be too long now, and I am very excited to continue reading that. I really enjoyed the first one, and I so far heard good things about the second one, so. And the next one is, I actually had 2 for this category. The next one is Yellowface. Same exact story. Still waiting, just waiting for a copy. I don't want to buy a second one because I don't like having duplicates of books. I could read this digitally, granted. But I'm in no particular rush. I do have very high hopes for this one. I think it's very insightful about publishing community and publishing industry, and I am very much ready for it. I know there's mixed opinions on this one, but mainly positive. And as someone who does work in a publishing sphere, I am just very intrigued on the takes, and I think it's gonna be good. For the most anticipated release in the second half of the year, I actually struggled a little bit, but then when do I not? Eventually, I found that Saga Volume 11, I think, is out at some point in the second, like, late in 2020. There was no need for another word. Late in 2023. And I've regained kind of my love for Saga again after losing it a little bit with the previous volume, which actually almost put into the surprise category here, but I didn't quite make it. Decided to go down another route, but I am actually very excited for the next volume because I feel rekindled with it. The biggest disappointment, honestly, it hurts. It really hurts. And it's not a bad book. I think the disappointment comes from my very, very high expectations. This is the conclusion to a series, bear that in mind, and I think the expectations for that are always just a little bit higher than just your regular starter book. I absolutely adored the first book, still recommend it to everyone that I meet. Literally. I met someone this weekend and I've literally recommended this to 2 people after saying hello. Somehow it doesn't take me long to get to that point of the conversation. It's probably a beige flag, not a red flag, maybe a beige flag. Adored the first book. The second one was okay. I still gave it, I think, 4 stars. I still really enjoyed it. It was a little bit less amazing than the first one, but that is like an unfortunately unattainable level because of how much I enjoyed the first one to like reach, and I didn't expect it to. It was still okay. It did lose me a couple of times in the story. I thought it was a bit of unnecessary take. Some stuff irritated me, mainly about like miscommunication stuff, but it doesn't matter. This is not a review for it. And I think that there's nothing wrong with the third book, and it wasn't as satisfying of a conclusion that I wanted. I didn't feel like we got the time with the characters I wanted. I felt like we went in a very different direction for the amount of time that we've spent on something or a certain POV. I felt like it was a wasted potential for me to go and get what I worked for. I felt like I was dangled a reward and I never quite got a bite of it. And that to me is the Stone Sky, and again, very, very sad. So this is unfortunately my biggest disappointment. If you told me that I'm gonna put the conclusion to the series in this category a year ago or before I read it, I probably would weep. So for the favorite new author, I didn't feel like I had a lot of choice to pick from. I did read quite a bit like new authors, but nothing that would categorize as a favorite until I noticed this entry in my spreadsheet. And honestly, yeah, the HMRC, Dawson, she's an amazing author. I never read anything by them before, so this was my introduction to their writing, and I really enjoyed it. I know that the prose is not for everyone, and it is a little bit of a crass type of humor, I guess, but I personally really enjoyed it. I had a very good time being angry at characters and being frustrated, and we follow such a diverse in lifestyle and views cast. It's all about this group of, well, a coven of women who grew up together. They're adults now and their lives are completely polar opposite of each other, and they have to meet again. It's just very interesting how, you know, you grew up with someone and you know them so well, but you can be so different that if not for that childhood bond, you would never be together. You would never be friends. You'd not even be an acquaintance sometimes. And it's how you manage that and how you, and where the line is, because there's definitely a line and one person is far, far from it because they're awful. But it was very good, and we left off on such a cliffhanger, I feel. If you've not read the first one yet, now is a great time because you will want to pick up the second one as soon as you're finished, and now it's available, so now is a good time. The next question is always one that I just can't really answer. It's a newest fictional crush, and I do not really crush on book characters, so I've changed it to your newest nemesis. And actually flaunting this around, there is a character here that could very much be the nemesis there, and it really could. But I think because I've read this, like this was my last finished read, so it's fresher in my mind compared to HMRC, which was a while back now. But I just despised this person so much. Every time they were on the page, every time they opened their filthy fucking mouth, I was fuming. It was so infuriating because I had such things to say back and no other characters said anything, and I understand the situation was tense and you don't want to push buttons. Oh, but I was ready there, pushed the buttons for them, and it was so frustrating that no one did, and so it got a lot of emotions out of me. Anyway, Oliver from 5 Survive. This is about a group of kids that are trying to make their way, well, I say kids, technically adults, most of them. There's only one, I think, person that's like 17. All of them are like of age. Anyway, they're going for spring break. And their RV gets kind of purposefully lost, and then they are attacked by someone from the outside to get a secret out of one of them, and they don't tell which one and who has the secret and what's it about, and they have to kind of force each other to reveal that to, you know, save the others, or, well, kinda. That's kinda the plot. And one of them is frustrating. Then there's the newest favorite character, which again is a little bit hard for me. I don't know, I forget I'm lucky if I remember half of them, but I think I'm gonna have to say Luffy. I'm really hoping that's how you pronounce it. I've not watched the anime. Logan keeps trying to lure me into the anime side because he's not seen it, but he wants to watch it with me, and I do. I really want to, but I want to read it first, and I feel like I have a very addictive personality when it comes to shows or games and anything like that. If I start it, it will be a very hard time for me to like stop and, you know, stop the show, read the manga, continue the show. That is just not gonna happen. If I put it on, I will watch everything. So I'm still trying to stay strong and continue physically with the series, but he has the best attitude to life. I aspire to be so unbothered in situations that are so unfavorable to me. This is what I would like to be. That's the anxiety level I thrive for. I never will get there, but it's very refreshing to read about because the character is so well-meaning but so unbothered, and I love it. I love it. So book that made you cry is where we see the repeat. It's How High We Go in the Dark. I don't think that I cried. Again, that's quite like hard for me, but I did tear up for sure. And book that made me happy was another kind of hard one. I didn't feel like I read a lot of books that were quite like cheerful and made me, well, happy. But I will say it was very heartwarming when I read Our Dining Table. This is again in my manga experiment. If you've not seen it, please watch it. I put a lot joking, you don't have to, but I did put a lot of time into those bloody graphics. The regret of my life, although that's not the regret of my life. But anyway, it's a very sweet story about two people finding each other, finding a family, finding ways to tackle things they didn't expect they can, and it's just Sorry if you can hear the cat in the litter. They are always so dramatic about it. Second to last question is the most beautiful book you had. I am very unorganized this year and I did not keep a list of the books that I got, but I do have a very soft spot for this edition of Alone with You in the Ether. I am, similarly to the character, very partial to a honeybee shape. I think it is beautiful. Maybe it's genes because my granddad was a beekeeper. I just love a hexagon. It's a good shape. So when a book has that aesthetic and it's filled with that plus beautiful foil and bees, like I think it's beautiful. I have now read this book and I do have thoughts which I had shared in my upcoming vlog. It's out very soon because it's a June one, so there's no point in me talking about it now. Then the very last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I am very loose and very kind of like decide later with my TBR. I don't really seem to set at least a realistic. I tried in the past, but it doesn't really happen with me. A lot of the time I will also use TBR Avatar, which is like semi-random, so I don't really set like a TBR per se. I do have the Stormlight readathon with my Patreon, and we do have a plan to be finished by the end of the year, so I will hopefully be finished with Stormlight and up to date with it by the end of 2023. And apart from that, the only books that I do need to I missed the question. I'll add it at the end. It's like I have a book spare, why? The only other books that I do need to read are my book club reads, and I have a monthly book club again on Patreon, and the only one that I know is the next one, and that is One Dark Window, because that's one. I've not even announced it there yet, but it's one. So we're reading this in July. But other than that, I will just see. I'll see. I don't really do that. Biggest Surprise is the one that I've got for some reason. This was not a nice surprise. This was an author who I've considered one of my favorites, still is, but this early work of them, I knew to not expect the best things of the whole series, but I've heard that the first one is great. I just didn't find it, so I did really like the show, so I'm still like not mad I read it, but the actual book I did not enjoy, which was actually a big surprise, hence the category, because I really think I thought I would. I really came in expecting to have a good time, and that was Pines. It's just not a book I would recommend. I think if you want to read his books, Dark Matter, Recursion, even The Upgrade, even though I don't think that one's as good. But this no. I will definitely not gonna be continuing with the series. I do like the TV show, and I think that's kind of cool. It definitely had some cringe bits and like very questionable editing in places, but I did still really enjoy it, and I think you could just skip the book and go to that show if you must. But yeah, it was very surprising because I just so I didn't really want to end on this kind of note, but I hope that your reading is going well in this year so far. I feel like number-wise I'm like ahead of schedule because I've only set myself like 55 or 50 books even, like I normally do. I don't really care, to be honest, about the numbers, so that's not a big deal. Quality-wise, I did have a lot of good like 4 stars or 3.5 stars, but I'm missing a little bit of that spark of like, oh, this was a 5-star that I had at the beginning of the year. I feel like the universe could like sprinkle that in at least like mid-year for me, so it's about time. Maybe when the August readathon rolls in, maybe we'll have it then. I don't know. At some point I would like a 5-star please soon, because I need a little treat to continue. But overall I wouldn't say that it's going bad. It's eventful. It's going. And I'm surprised that I actually do have a decent amount of books for me, considering that I had some months or definitely weeks that I just couldn't read at all, be that due stressed or like life events. This year has been not good. It's been great in some ways, but it's been a very stressful, very odd. Lots of things happened in 2023 that I would not have had put in my personal bingo card, and I'm just trying to find ways to deal with it. But it's all good. There's some great stuff as well. Bit of an unrelated tidbit there. But anyway, I hope you're well. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what's the best book you've read so far in your 2023, because I would love to know that. Especially for the best book, because I am currently on a quest to find another 5-star read, as you know. But yeah, thank you so much. Stay awesome, stay kind, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!